I picked an interesting time to become a YouTuber, especially one that wants to cover franchises like Star Wars, Marvel, and, some other things related to Disney in regards to news and products. Both Star Wars and Marvel find themselves in times of change. Lucasfilm is trying to right the ship after creating a divisive sequel trilogy that they still feel the heat from to this day. Marvel is currently falling from grace. Marvel was at its peak in 2019 when Endgame came out, the movie that capped off a successful decade for the franchise. During that time, we had three phases. The first one that introduced us to the Avengers. Phase 2 showed us the fallout from the Avengers. 3 featured all the epic stories from the Age of Ultron, Infinity War, and Endgame. We could look back in time now and break down all these movies. We could talk about which ones were good, which ones were average, and which ones were bad or maybe overrated. Everyone has different opinions and preferences. Many debates can be had on all this. But I truly believe that most, if not all, Marvel fans will agree that phases 1 through 3 were great for the most part, and that they want to see future Marvel projects carry that on. Yes, things have changed because of new ideas like Disney Plus, and the pandemic of course affected productions and the plans Marvel had coming. Some of the criticism of Marvel is justified in my opinion. Some of the most recent movies missed the mark, and the Disney Plus shows offer a mixed bag of content. However, I am shocked to see how much hate Marvel has been receiving, even after all the success and great experiences that they have provided us. So, in this video, I will be reflecting on the current situation and giving my thoughts on it. Now, I'll admit, I'm more of a Star Wars fan, so my level of passion for Marvel is a bit less than Star Wars. If I was as big of a fan of Marvel as I am Star Wars, then perhaps I would be in that category of people that are really frustrated with the current state of the franchise. I honestly think Star Wars fans have more of a right to be upset than Marvel fans. Disney has done more bad and caused more damage to Star Wars than it has with Marvel. Like, literally, its first major project, the sequel trilogy, was a disaster. Marvel fans are up in arms because of a few Disney Plus shows that were bad or somewhat disappointing, and I'm going to use the word some because not all were bad. There were some really good ones like WandaVision, Loki, Moon Knight, and What If. I also think you had some shows that were average but were still good enough to watch. They were fun, like The Falcon and the Winter Soldier and Hawkeye. And then you did have a few that really dropped the ball, like Ms. Marvel and She-Hulk. I personally don't dislike these shows. I'm just disappointed with some of the decisions that were made for the storytelling. Ms. Marvel was a nice laid-back show that was good until the villains were defeated halfway through the show, and it just felt like the show was dragging on to the end with little purpose because there wasn't much of a conflict left, like a serious threat. With She-Hulk, I think it had a lot of potential to be a fun and interesting show that would strengthen and support the female superhero fan group. But again, weird story decisions were made, especially in that finale where it really sank the ship. With Marvel movies over the past couple of years, they've been heavily criticized, and I can understand some of the criticism of Ant-Man, Thor: Love and Thunder, and Eternals, but I am not sure why I have seen so many complaints about Shang-Chi, Black Widow, and even Black Panther 2. And Black Panther 2 actually blows my mind, because the writers were dealt a shitty hand of cards. They obviously wanted to create a sequel with Chadwick Boseman, but his death changed a lot of things. So how could you be so against this movie when it's not even what they originally planned? It's not their fault that it had to come out like this. Personally, I didn't think it was a bad movie at all. Probably a little bit more sad than you would have hoped for, but again, they were honoring Chadwick, and in terms of storytelling, it's a big deal that the Black Panther was dead. And there really were some strong movies that have come out over the last couple of years. Spider-Man: No Way Home, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Those were memorable movies, and I will watch them time and time again. And a lot of fans like to bring up Disney being woke and too liberal. Yeah, they are a very liberal company, and you could see them push the agenda a bit at times, but at the end of the day, it's the storytelling that truly matters. I can get behind those people that are upset like me because of the controversial decisions being made on the storytelling. Those that have issues with character portrayals or finales falling flat, well, I'll give you the time of day. I won't give time or energy to the people that just want to say, this is woke or this is liberal because there's a gay character or a minority character in the movie or show. If that stuff bothers you, then I guess you just have to find another movie company to watch, other content to watch, because Disney is a company embracing the world in 2023, which focuses on a lot more inclusivity than we've seen in past years and decades. Like, I really don't know why people are so shocked by this. I think people sometimes just don't realize how important a character or story is to a certain group of people. Like Black Panther, for an example. That movie was very important for Black people. I'm white and I do recognize this. I may not be able to relate totally to their feelings toward the hero and the movie, but I somewhat have an understanding of its impact on that community. And sometimes I do wonder if the age of the audience matters. I was in middle school back in 2008 when Iron Man came out and when all these movies started rolling out for Phase 1 and beyond. I remember my parents having to drive my friends and I to the theater to watch these movies every weekend. And then we eventually drove ourselves a few years later during our high school years, and then I remember in college going with large groups of friends to see Infinity War and Endgame. The point I am trying to make here is that now in 2023, the generation of fans I belong to are now in their mid-20s. Of course, there are fans of all ages, but I could tell you for a fact that the kids that grew up in phases 1 through 3, like me, are now adults with mature minds. We have more of an interest in stories with serious tones. We want to see true character development. We want to see characters work and earn their way to their goals. We just have an interest in more adult type of content. Disney, of course, wants to focus on making content that kids can watch. They want their content to be universal, and I understand that. But there has to be ways to give us some lighthearted kid content and have more adult-like themes in other projects. Let me give you an example. This is why I don't like Thor: Love and Thunder. The story they chose to write does not fit in well with all the comedic aspects of the movie. That movie should have been a serious adult type of movie. Your villain Gore is a god killer. He has the drive and the motivation to kill all the gods. He has the one weapon that can strike down all the gods. Gore looks sinister and scary as fuck. You bring in Zeus and all the other gods. Then you have Jane Foster, who has cancer, and she's able to become a hero for a bit and extend her life before she sadly passes away. All this stuff is serious and emotional, but here's what kills it. Zeus, the god of all gods that acts that silly, especially when all the gods are being threatened? Gore's monster army is defeated by kids near the end of the movie? Look, I did laugh at the goats, and I did laugh at Russell Crowe acting all flamboyant and whatnot, but the actual story written for this movie does not match the comedy that is injected into it. I also found it weird that in the She-Hulk finale, the writers decided to poke fun at Kevin Feige and Marvel writing in general. Yeah, haha, Kevin Feige is a machine. I mean, yeah, he basically is. The dude has been pumping out all this content over the years. He's the executive producer on basically everything. We are making fun of him after all this success. Also, they write in the fact that they don't want to make a stereotypical ending where the hero beats the villain. So they skip past the fight and show us a scene of the bad guy getting arrested, and then there's a happy family dinner at the end. What? That fourth wall stuff was very weird at the end, and honestly, it made the ending feel very unfulfilling. I remember back in the day watching Daredevil on Netflix when it was coming out. I loved that show. The serious, darker tone kept me hooked. The writing was superb in general. And I'll admit I do need to watch the other Netflix shows, and I'm actually going through them right now. I'm almost done with the first season of Jessica Jones, and that show features even more great writing and acting, more serious tones as well. I honestly can't believe how addicting Season 1 is to watch when Jessica is a hero known for her strengths and wits, no flashy powers really compared to some others we've seen. And then you have a villain who literally is a badass with mind control and just, again, his wittiness, his intelligence to, escape situations and cause many issues for Jessica Jones and other people in the show. I'm not saying every movie or show has to be rated R, but every project should have quality writing. I think that is the main issue with Marvel right now. So yeah, here's Mr. Analyze This again, fence-sitting and supporting both sides of the equation, but I'll be honest, I am frustrated with Marvel storytelling. But I am far less critical of Marvel than I am Star Wars because Marvel is going through an understandable transition. They peaked at the end of Season 3, and rightfully so, they did a good job. It's going to be tough to catch that magic again with new heroes and stories. It takes time. And honestly, I think they are more than capable of doing it. I do think agenda pushing needs to stop, but I also think the review bombing by fans needs to stop as well. And maybe things will change. Bob Iger is back for a bit and he's cleaning house. High-ranking officials have been let go recently. Maybe there will be some change in the content with new heads of leadership. And honestly, Star Wars may also need that soon if these next couple of shows don't pan out, and depending on how the next few movies go whenever they announce them and release them. So these are just my thoughts on the current state of Marvel. I get the frustration, but let's not throw Marvel in the same pit as Star Wars just yet. They deserve the opportunity to find their footing again. So let me know what you think in the comments, and do the usual, like the video, subscribe, and click that bell. I'm also on Twitter and TikTok at analyzethis_YT. Peace.